just like that, should we kick it off by talking about the Back Pocket Boys? A little Back Pocket Boy check-in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we cannot not talk about Decky's neck. Necklin. Y'all see his neck?
Yeah, that thing's thick. They said with 2 C's, man. If you seen that photo, him back in college.
That's a linebacker right there.
I didn't think it was real.
It was like a thumb. It was like a thumb with hair. It was, I don't know.
He needs to be a part of that long neck, daddy long neck gang. We got to get Decky into that gang. Because there's no reason this dude shouldn't go viral because of that neck. Yeah. Before and after, like it just depleted. Like, Decky, what happened, bro? Your neck doesn't just shrink like that. Like, come on, bro. Where'd the protein go? Get your shit together. Like, he turned into an ultra marathon athlete instead of a football player with the quickness.
I want to see a full body shot because I want to see how the rest of his body looks because that neck alone was something different.
He honestly had a neck that I've only seen on Down syndrome kids.
I've never seen a neck like that before.
Nope.
What's next to talk about? See what you just did right there?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so what's next? Okay, Decky getting thrown through a fucking table. How's he just going to let them do that like that? This ain't WWE.
What's the story behind that? Because I did not hear about that one.
Well, I was just scrolling through Instagram and I saw a video of their homies here. Were just having a little barbecue, it looked like, and then they just kind of went up to Declan. They're like, hey, and they grabbed him, and then they threw him onto a table.
Through a table. And then that video got their best engagement to date.
That'll break your neck. Okay. But pun intended. Okay, so fellas, we haven't sat down in so long. Loops, you said you got some stories for us.
I do. I have a couple of recent too. Yesterday, Twitter was popping off. You saw it. Mm-hmm. The Pentagon actually confirmed the leaked videos of UFOs from 2004, I think, to shut down any speculation if it was fake or real. They confirmed that they are real videos of UFOs, and everyone is going bonkers and crazy saying aliens are real to make 2020 the year for us.
Disclosure. Let's bring it on, baby. Yeah, those were Navy videos.
Did you watch it?
I mean, I saw those videos 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, they were leaked 2 years ago, and it's funny that the Pentagon just confirms now, and it's like, wait a minute, bro, we were able to leak them 2 years ago because of, you know, they're able to disclose film after so long or whatever. I forgot what it's called. Mm-hmm. But we have understood this for a long time. So there's this guy named Bob Lazar, right? Mm-hmm. He worked at Area 51. Mm-hmm. And he was never taken serious because of fabricated college enrollment and stuff like that. So, like, they immediately discounted him. That's what happens when things like this get disclosed, is they immediately discount the people who disclose them. Now, they want to say that he never had any record working at Area 51. Well, as we know, the Pentagon is very good at making things disappear. So that shouldn't surprise you, okay? So Joe Rogan gets him on his podcast. This dude isn't just talking about UFO findings from, say, 100 years ago or whatever. He's talking about some of the UFOs he was working on were ancient UFOs that were found in ancient ruins from thousands of years ago. So what does that say about us being guinea pigs? We're just one big science experiment to these beings that are definitely way more advanced than us. But who's to say they aren't us in the future? Because if they are that advanced to use gravity to their advantage and blast off and free energy, solar energy, or however they tap into it, they are also probably advanced enough to bend time. Because, I don't know, man, the string theory, I believe, is where you take a piece of paper, right? Mm-hmm. So what they do is they get good enough at bending time to where they can take time. So they go from A to B way quicker by bending time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that is, you know, what an example I've seen for string theory. So if they're advanced enough to create crafts that can fly at the flash of light, speed of light, who's to say they're not bending time as well by doing that? Nothing surprises me.
I think it's really they said a thing where it is equally scary to say whether we're the only ones in the universe, but then or we're not the only ones in the universe. Both are equally scary. And I actually do believe in that too, because I feel with like all this mystery is kind of just prolonging to the truth. Like, just freaking tell us if there's aliens so we have a little bit of closure into like, is there anything out there?
Check it out though. What if they don't want to expose that aliens have been involved politically for a very long time? What if they do not want to expose the fact that aliens, UFOs, have been floating over nuclear missiles and shutting them off? That's been talked about. It's known. They've flown over. We lost millions of dollars because they shut off these missiles at this base, and they were never able to turn them back on. So that means we're out all that money. Okay? So who's to say that they don't want to expose how involved they've been with extraterrestrials for so long? Because then their jig is up. Then politically they're exposed. They've known this all along.
So they're in too deep.
They're in way too deep. Don't get it twisted, man. The Men in Black have existed. They have.
Well, Dom and I have been around for a while.
And now with all these documentaries coming out about how involved the CIA is in Hollywood, they're basically subcontractors for Hollywood. So when they shoot these films, who do you think they're getting advice from? The military and the CIA. They have a wing that they're contracted by Hollywood. We can only show them this much. No, this is new technology. We can't show them all that. We'll eventually get there because it's known that the military is at least 50 years ahead of what we know publicly.
Television.
Let's go tell them something.
Tell them something. I also saw this is random, like TikTok. I saw this thing in connection to more conspiracy things. I didn't know if it's true. It could be debunked. We can debunk it right now. But if you type in, if you spell out Illuminati, then .com, it should take you to the official NSA workshop or not website, I should say. Like I saw, Illuminati spelled backwards.com.
I don't even know how to spell Illuminati.
Spelled backwards.com.
Normally.
Oh boy, we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Illuminati. So
ITAM.
ITAN.
IMULLI. Backwards, right?
It's gonna be backwards and then .com.
If I disappear in the next couple days,
I'm letting you do this one.
Okay. It could be like nothing.
I wonder if this is even real.
Okay.
before you continue to this site, by clicking the button below, you'll be redirected to Chrome Store and be given the option to install a secured browse extension. Otherwise, skip directly to your destination by clicking the
Don't do
button.
it.
I would skip. Don't.
Accept.
That's definitely NSA talk right there.
Yeah.
Let us go to a new browser.
I'm gonna close that.
let us come here, kitty. Get in my van. That's what that is.
Have a lollipop.
Oh, that's so bad.
I love stuff like that because, honestly, if you're a fool if you think that we're the only beings in this universe, right? Especially if it's ever expanding, you're just ignorant, flat out. Mm-hmm. If you think that our planet was created in 7 days, well, I mean, let's be honest, that's fucking impossible because, well, this formed into this over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So you think everything was just, oh, wait, no, it was created in 6 days, and then on the 7th day, he rested, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, you're a fool. Come on. Like, in today's day and age, we know too much. You can't continue on with that lie, that fallacy. So if you do believe in that, immediately we have to discount your point of view on so much. Mm-hmm. Get my drift? Those are the type of people who will drop everything and just believe what they're told. They are what mainstream media loves because they buy it all.
They're the ones that believed Trump when he said that Lysol thing last week. People are in uproar over that kind of stuff.
Dude, that made me gross. Go ahead.
But think about that, though. There's people out there that they don't know any better, so they're just going to listen to what they're told. Mm-hmm. And so people actually were upset about that, and some people thought it was real.
Yeah, and to play devil's advocate, this guy, all he was doing was like throwing things out there and then looking over at his scientific and medical advisors. Okay, so like he wasn't even suggesting that, but the people who are brainwashed, they buy into that, and then obviously anything Trump says is put on a pedestal and they run with it, and then it forms legs. You know, Darwin's theory, like whatever Trump says, it eventually forms legs and turns into a meme monster. You know what I'm saying? There are times where we have to be very hard on this guy and we have to hold him accountable. This was not one of those times, because if you watch it, it's like he's just throwing things out there. Like he had heard about light therapy, so he's throwing that out there. And then people immediately give that the wrong legs. All the while, it's being proven, Thaddeus Owen could break this down for us, that light therapy is huge. Red light therapy.
That just tells you that puppet mastering is real, though, because he can say whatever he wants, and there's people out there that are going to believe everything he says.
Oh, man. And that gets us into Manchurian candidates. I'm telling you, bro, I just read this book called Chaos. Okay, it was all about the CIA, LSD, these LSD projects, and Charles Manson and the family, right? Charlie Manson was let go on so many occasions. That dude was on felony parole, okay? And they were bringing him into the CIA clinic where his PO was, and he would bring in a couple girls, right? And it is known that he was being provided with LSD, and it was for a race war. So they wanted this race war to pop off, and they kept allowing, because they knew Charlie Manson was building this following and he was crazy enough. And he was also kind of inducted into Hollywood through the Beach Boys. So there was this LSD project going on. It was getting rolled out. This is the roaring 60s, okay? Where it was the summer of love. And don't think that wasn't planned out. But they go deeper into this in regards to tell me why both the Kennedy boys who were shot, tell me why both the guys who shot them were also shot. You get my drift? Yeah. You can't tell me that there isn't this big game going on where it's silence, 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 silence. Especially with a guy like JFK who was talking about there's a big game being played. Secrecy.
It even goes back to Lincoln. I mean, who assassinated Lincoln and why?
John Wilkes Booth.
What was the need for him to assassinate Lincoln?
Well, I mean, that's probably goes into more race war, because what was old Abe trying to do?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that power struggle.
It really is, and it gets to the point where nowadays with censorship running rampant, do you talk about this stuff or not? But the trick is to keep talking about it. Because if you allow silencing to happen, well, then you've already played your hand and you've lost from the jump. If we don't keep talking about it, because there's this thing called the what's it called? It's called fucking the law of average. Okay, so we have the insurmountable amount, 99%. It's even higher than that. These families that are elite, they're really not all they're cracked up to be. But our belief in them, in the systems they've created, is what gives them the power. I was saying months ago, this is probably late 2019, do people realize what would happen to the game if they all just didn't go to work the next day? That's happening right now. We've seen what's happened to the game. I didn't foresee what was happening, what was going to happen. But if people just didn't go to work a singular day, the structure falls. It crumbles. Just like that. And now we're realizing it. And honestly, I am basking in this. I am, just because it's a reset. I don't want our system to fail. I don't want people to starve. I don't want homes to be lost. But I do want people's mentality on their power within to change. I want everyone to understand how powerful you are as a collective.
Yeah, so like we're because of this like situation we're in, we're empowering people because we see how collectively people staying home, not going to work, like can do to an entire world. Yep. That I do feel that perspective is very empowering, because I didn't really think of it that way. Like alone, people feel like they can't do much of a change. Like, say, things like recycling and littering. It's like, oh, I don't care, like, because everyone else is going to be doing it. But then we're in a spot where we are staying home and we're just lessening our carbon footprint. And then it already does things to the earth. Like, everything's improving. And we're breaking the higher ups that we don't speak of, but we're doing a change on them.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're seeing them trying to pivot. Okay, so you're seeing Bill Gates trying to pivot, leaving the Microsoft board, leaving the Berkshire Hathaway board.
His name.
Yeah, but no, I mean, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's cross our fingers and hope to God he is going to cause some major change. And who knows what's going to happen genetically, whether we're going to be modified or not, okay? Because I truly believe transcendence is happening. Whether you want to buy into Ray Kurzweil at Google's plan in regards to, he thinks our souls are going to be transferred into other beings, okay, into machines. Bro, what's wrong with reincarnation? You know what I'm saying? Allow it to happen naturally. Let us pass through and then come back on our own timeline, okay? Now with Bill Gates,
fuck.
We said it again. Yeah, but here's the deal, Timmy. If we start microchipping ourselves, when it becomes foolproof and it's virus-free, he doesn't use John McAfee to save his hardware. If it becomes foolproof, well, if we are going to digital currency, it's not going to be the worst thing. It's just I want to be able to pluck that off of me too. So I would rather wear this than implant this.
Yeah, same. Like I think there's a lot more concern that could happen having something in your body like that. Like, I feel like there's better alternatives in that regard. Like,
imagine the infections that they're going to hide under the table and say they never happened. You know what I'm saying? Because not everyone's biology is the same. So some people literally have they're allergic to heavy metals. Now you want to start throwing some stuff you plucked out of the ground in Africa inside of me? Get the fuck out of here. Miss me with that, Tim. You will not implant me. I'll wear something, though, that I can take off. Like,
just think about it.
Snakeskin.
They've been doing this stuff for years upon years, man. So at what point in time now are we telling ourselves to have them stop doing it? They've been doing it to us for years. The amount of stuff that we put in our bodies has been happening for years. So it's like now there's certain few of us here that are getting wiser, but it doesn't mean that once you talk about being in too deep, we might be in too deep.
What's it going to do to sports when the Elon Musk brain implant starts kicking in and all of a sudden your reaction time and your vision is on fleek? It's going to be a cheat code in its own right. It was bad enough they had that South African dude who murdered his wife. They called him the Blade Runner. They were talking about him having a cheat code attached to his kneecaps when he was running the 400 meter or whatever in the Olympics. Now, once you start implanting things that are going to enhance people's vision, that's a cheat code in its own right. So they want to talk about steroids in baseball and things like that. Just wait until we start implanting ourselves with chips that can be upgraded. Because who's to say I'm not going to go pay a Silicon Valley developer to upgrade my chip as a professional athlete, because I will do anything
It's the next level
to get the edge. You know what I'm saying? These are not being thought out. So people think that it's going to happen overnight. I was talking to my friend who is, he works for some big companies, and we were talking about AI technology, and he thinks it's going to happen rather quickly. I think it's going to take some time to roll out in regards to the whole Jeff Bezos plan with Amazon drones and their delivery service. We have these satellites up in the sky. 5G is being rolled out, and it's basically to create a web that encases our planet so everything can be automated. Well, one thing that's going to do is it is actually going to bring us to a place where we won't have to work as hard, work as much. Technology is going to do what it's meant to do, and it's always been meant to do since they created the wheel, okay? But at the same time, there's going to be this learning curve where we have to get used to it, and we have to be able to trust transcendence. What's it going to take for human beings to trust transcendence unless it's forced down your throat and it's just a mandated new way of life? That's the only way. Does that make sense? So this is a perfect time during a viral infection on our planet to roll this out and force it down your throat to the point there's no turning back because, sorry, Jack, satellites are already up, chips are already in. Welcome to the new way of life.
That just scares me because
I came here to freak you out.
no, and you are because we were watching Now You See Me, right? This movie, and the whole thing about the movie, it's about magic and it's about being like a step ahead or a step behind. And so everything that you're talking about right now is allowing me to sit here and go, we might be 10 steps behind all of this and everything that because right now everything you're saying sounds 100% on point. But who's to say that they haven't already thought that stuff through and like they're just playing these mind games with us, and the four of us sitting here right now, we're just a pawn in this game that they've already had scripted out years and years ago.
Well, they already are. So if you look at, I always say follow the money. I get my truth from following the money. So you see these heads backing out of their stocks and backing out of the companies that they help build to pivot over to other things. Don't get it twisted, man. The United States digital currency is already rocking. Thaddeus already bought some. Like the pivot's already happened. So there is this currency that it's called BRICS. Okay. It was created by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. That was a big idea 7 years ago. And you can't tell me this isn't a perfect time to roll that out.
Right.
Where there's a battle of currencies going on our planet. These big red storm countries have already thought this through. They knew our jig was going to be up eventually. And it just shows how fragile we are. We're on the forefront of something new, and everyone's kind of like hesitant to accept it. We're sitting around the campfire telling stories, not knowing, all the while the puppeteers, they're just playing ball, Jack. They already have their islands. They are not tied down to any specific country. Mm-hmm. They're planetary, you know?
How do I get into that group of people though, man?
Hey, can I borrow your soul? I'm going to make you sign this piece of paper.
You believe that? Yeah, I believe that.
Blood sacrifice, Timmy. Blood sacrifice. How committed are you to put things that are your deepest, darkest secrets on camera, on tape, so they can have leverage? It's a game of leverage.
Would you do it?
I don't know. I get pretty scared just simply doing things like terms and conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can I do something any higher than that?
The
Like,
fact
it's
that you
scary.
said I don't know though is telling me that you probably would do it though.
I don't know. I take a lot of time thinking when it comes to big decisions.
What about you? What you think? I mean, like I know for a fact you would do it.
Well, I get the game. It's spiritual. It's a spiritual war. It's how sound are you spiritually? Then it doesn't matter if you sign a dotted line. Mm-hmm. Because if trials happen and missteps happen, your spirit, as long as your spirit's sound, you're good to go. Thing is when they talk about blood sacrifice, I mean, it literally happens, whether that be Hollywood, whether that be in the higher ranks of government you will never even know exists. It happens. In this book, Chaos, right? They were talking about agent provocateurs in Vietnam, where they went and they mowed down a village and then they blamed it on the Viet Cong to send us to war. That's been going on to get us into war. That's a blood sacrifice on a militant's hands. He will never be able to live that down. Who is he? He might rise up the ranks in the CIA or government when he comes back, but guess what, Jack? Is he spiritually sound or not? He sold his soul to the devil that day. But guess what? The Game talks about this in his songs. Nipsey Hussle talks about this in Hustle and Sacrifice, Hustle and Motivate. You got to go make a blood sacrifice, Jack. You got to take them to the other side of the tracks and blow their fucking brains out to show your gang you really mean business. That's what it's all about. Commitment. Now, that can be on a physical level or that can be on a spiritual level. I know I've done the work, so you can't take that from me. There are people who walk around who think they have the answers, but if they haven't done the work, they don't deserve to even try to shine a light on you. They're now an energy vampire. We have it within us to make a sacrifice on a daily basis to our team, to our gang, and we rise up the ranks together. There's nothing that can stop us. But it's all about setting affirmations and making it happen, which is why we've had a constant theme of setting affirmations, writing down goals and seeing to it that you're going to fulfill those goals. Because I kind of quit worrying about things I can't control, and that's a big spiritual maneuver. So you can be scared about things we talk about, right? Can we control them?
No.
Doesn't matter then.
You control your response to fear.
Yes.
Fear's going to happen regardless. So, like, it's preparing yourself and gearing yourself to combat that fear and deal with it, even when things are intense.
Vulnerability wins in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Fitzsimmons, he told a story about back in the day in the woods, they would find nudie magazines, okay? And everyone, if you were a kid in the 90s, you would find these nudie magazines in the woods. This is how savage comedians are. He straight up told a story about sucking another kid's dick. And this is a straight man who's a writer in Hollywood. He's got Emmys. He let it all out there, left it all out there. He did that because now the Illuminati ain't got shit on him. The Scientologists ain't got shit on him. The vulnerability is there. When you leave it all out there, what the fuck do they have on you? Nothing. His wife has to accept him for who he is. There's this old skater. His name's Jason. I forgot his name, but he straight up, he's got a wife and he's bisexual. And he leaves it out there just because there's nothing you can tell me now. Now, that's obviously on the sexual ranks, but we're talking if you've ever done somebody dirty, if you've ever beat somebody up who didn't deserve it, if you've ever done some dirt, stole something.
So it's like B-Rabbit and 8 Mile.
Exactly. Leave it all out there. What do you now? That's obviously he's publicly let that be known, so it doesn't matter if I share. But there are things that people have told me that sticks with me forever. But that was their freedom by telling me.
Mm-hmm.
You get my drift? I don't expect everyone to let all their dirt hang. But when you're vulnerable enough to just let it up, this is why they called the fifth and sixth step in the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous and NA, okay? So the fifth and the sixth step are basically writing down everything. Okay, so is it your fifth and sixth or your fourth and fifth? Sixth is, can you look it up, Dom? I believe it's your fourth and fifth step. So your fourth is where you document everything that you want to lay it all out there. And then the fifth step, it's called working your fifth step, I believe, where you go get vulnerable, typically in front of a pastor, okay, which is how they did it back in the day, or your sponsor. You go to a third party it's a non-judgment zone. And you just lay it all out there. And that is you taking your skeletons from that closet and just throwing them out there so they can crumble.
Admitted to God.
Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. Right there, the fifth step. That is ultimate vulnerability right there. I have never felt more free than when I did it in front of an entire NA meeting.
Number 6 is important though too.
Where you
entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character.
So the fourth, fifth, and sixth, that's a key component to the 12 steps, because 1 through 3 is we admitted to we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. You're kind of finding God in that times. Oftentimes it's trauma that happens that brings you to that point. 3, you made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So that is where you kind of have this come to Jesus moment or whatever, and then you just accept that around step 3. 4 through 6 takes a lot of time for a lot of people. You made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So what you're doing is you're documenting. You're documenting everywhere you've fucked up, you've gone wrong in your life. Why is that? Because you're getting ready to just let it all hang out.
Taking all inventory in and releasing it out.
And making sure you know yourself and where you came from.
Absolutely. It's self-discovery. And you're just being vulnerable. And then when you get to that fifth step, I did it in front of an entire NA meeting, and they fucking applauded at the end because like people's jaws dropped. I'm a 23-year-old kid who's just like, I got nothing to lose. I got years hanging over my head. What the fuck do I have to lose? I might as well let it all hang out. And when that happens, when you unconditionally do it, you don't expect anything, this force takes you over. And then step 6 comes into play. You go back to your room and you're just higher than a fucking kite. I remember I was outside of my body and I was just okay with not being okay, unsure, didn't know. 10-minute phone calls that I was enslaved to didn't matter anymore. I just remember for like 2 days, I was higher than a kite because I just let it all hang out. And that is what really made me okay, was selling my soul, because I realized life goes on. Nothing matters. So if you guys see how I live, where it's like, I'll be vulnerable. I'll say things that normal people, they worry about the corporate ladder they're climbing, so they won't let it all hang out. When you are so sound with yourself, nothing matters, which means you're willing to apologize, which means you're willing to go down to step 9 and make amends. You get my drift, even when it's tough, which means you're okay with being transparent with people you love. I'm listening to this book right now, and it's all about kind of working your way to, it's called the creation frequency. Okay, it's all about, have you guys heard of The Secret? People hate The Secret, but the thing is this is extrapolating that, which means you get to a vibration where you surround yourself with people you vibe with, but you also surround yourself and you calibrate yourself with the creation frequency. When you do that, you are now welcoming in a new way of life that has always existed. Carl Jung talks about it, who's one of the leading psychologists who has ever walked this planet. He knew you better than you knew yourself. Now, I know I'm on a soapbox right now, but I'm really trying to break it down in layman's terms in the regards of, we all have it within ourselves to be spiritually sound. And when you know yourself, you literally, nothing matters. Excuses cease to exist. You are just vibrating as a vessel that is allowing its muse to work through it. Now, all of us as creators and performers, we owe it to ourselves to get to that point. When I was listening to this book, who did I think of? You. I immediately thought of you, because it's already in you. It's already there. It's a matter of just pivoting to recalibrate. And when you do that, it works through you. Fear no longer matters when you work these steps. Sober people can work these steps too.
Right.
Because it's all about a moral inventory. That's all it is. And when we let it hang out, dude, technically all relationships should go through this together.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
That's one thing I've been really into, is just taking the idea of relationships and applying each thing to each other. Like, everything is a relationship. The relationship with yourself, which we don't talk about enough in society. Like, how do you, why is there not a class like on empowering yourself? Like, there should be more classes like that, so you know yourself better and know, like, oh, if I'm feeling like this is what I need to get back to a better place. Like, we don't give ourselves the ability to make roadmaps for ourselves.
Yeah, it's crazy. You can be in a room with 4 people and you can have 3 of the people have no confidence whatsoever. One person have all the confidence in the world, and it makes you think, how come that person can carry themselves in that form, but then these other three people can't understand or get themselves out of bed in the morning? And so, and that's kind of,
I'm wearing the shirt right now. Hug your kids.
yeah.
We ended up like this because of past traumas. No matter how little or big they are. I learned as a father that each waking moment for my daughter is like this ball of trauma, because it's the end of the world to her. You get my drift? So hugs, and understanding are what make us into confident adults. Now, some people who weren't hugged as kids, like myself and Dom, Timmy, you weren't hugged at all either. Your dad didn't even know how to spell love, let alone say it.
He loved us, but yeah, he didn't show it that way. You're right.
Loops, I don't know. but I do know my
got hugged.
my Asian friends, there were high expectations in their household, and it was almost like to this point of like, you're never going to be good enough.
Yeah, it's what I learned growing up is the idea of understanding surrounds my mind, because love comes in different languages. So what love is defined to you could be different to someone else. And like sometimes you don't accept it because it wasn't your expectation. So love in like as American terms as like the physical affections, the affirmation, the verbs and stuff. But things in like culture, when that comes into play, that could skew the relationship. That's why there's like so many culture clashes between Asian Americans and Asian immigrants, because love in the affection of a Southeast Asian family is more survivalist based. It's like, I love you, so I'm feeding you, because we didn't have that back in the jungles, back in Laos. But like love to us is like, we want emotional connection. And so having understanding where their definition of love is different, it makes you more compassionate, and then makes you stop that cycle for the next generation. For like me, I think about that a lot. For the next gen of Asian Americans, I want them to know that we're all different people. Love is different, but like understanding helps you grow as a person.
The transition isn't easy at all, though, because Africans, we go through the exact same thing. Because I mean, we're immigrants, and my family is, and so the love that we're learning from being in America versus the love how it is back home in Africa, completely different. And so, like, yeah, my father didn't show affection by hugging us, but he did verbally educate us, and he was the one that taught us at a young age, here's how the future is going to be, here's what you need to be doing. Never did he come over and say, I love you, or give us any kind of hugs, but he did educate us.
And he probably considered that as his form of love.
Yeah. And that's how he treated love.
Kind of like what you're talking about, Loops.
Yeah, like it was really weird, and dawned on me that I felt like I wasn't getting enough love, so I always resented my parents, and I'm still like breaking through those kind of moments. But I did, in a weird way, it feels the word love is such a weird concept in the household. So it's like, what the hell is that even? So you just have to accept that the actions, it's just like people, like your parents especially, like they love you, they just don't know how. And they only do it in the way that they know. Right. And that's how they were raised and loved with their parents and stuff. And so that makes me understand and show love. Like they love isn't a form of them packing my food every single morning when I was in college. Like, and then love is like where they provided this household for me, like the little gratifications that we might overlook.
See, I remember growing up, what I learned about love from my white friends was dinner. We didn't do dinner, so that's the one thing that's what love was to them, where they'd get together at the table and they would have dinner like this. We didn't do that. When it was time to eat, it was just time to eat. My parents still loved me, but we just didn't have to sit at a table to show the fact that we loved each other.
Mm-hmm. Tough love is also love. And it's sometimes the ultimate form of love, because you are in the process of teaching a hard lesson. We're learning that with my child right now. No, you're not going to watch baby cartoons at 9:30 at night. It's not going to happen. No, you're not getting a second bottle at 11:30 because your ass is still awake. You pissed the bed. It's not going to happen. So I deal with those moment by moment traumatic outbursts. But the thing is it's all for a higher purpose. Tough love, as opposed to enablement, which they talk about in the program. Enablement comes off as this form of love, but the thing is you're actually setting people back, and that is actually why I value and why I lead a Buddhist type life, because I love Asian tradition. I love the idea of stern, stoic love. It honestly like has taught me so much in regards to looking at it from the outside looking in. Because I value how my Asian friends, Japanese friends as well, have ended up. They've ended up very successful, picking up pieces from their past life and trying to figure things out where they weren't hugged and things like that. And they did have high expectations, but they did end up as a success story in their parents' eyes and things like that. Dom, I want to hear a story from you. I really think it is time for you to tell us the story about the television. This is a trippy fucking story.
So growing up, I used to like hallucinate a bit. You don't know this story at all. Oh, this is gonna be great.
I know this one. Is it the same one we were driving back home?
Yeah.
You told me
Yeah.
this one. It's freaky.
So
I'm nervous now.
Dude, let's get this sage rolling because this motherfucker, this story is dope, dude.
If it's demonic or whatever, let's get all that.
it takes you somewhere for sure. I lived in this place in Wabasha. It was like,
I'm already scared.
it was definitely this older house that was, I believe, converted into apartments, like several different apartments. But the one place that we lived in, it like the format of it, you walk in through the front door and you could like go around, go up the stairs. There's a room this way, and then straight through another room, there's my room. There's my room through that room. So it's just like a walk-in closet basically. And then there's a door that goes in the hallway. It's small enough that I can reach over this way and then stick my foot out the other way, and I can touch both walls. Okay. So that's how small it is. So in one corner of the room, there's a TV. In the other corner is where my bed is sitting against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there was a couple nights where I had these very weird dreams, out of nowhere. And what would happen is I would wake up, look over at the TV, and it's one of the old like boom TVs, box TVs. But I would look at the TV and you could see your reflection in those pretty easily. And in the place where I would be was just a silhouette, just a pitch black shadow in the place that I would be. Okay. So I would just be looking at it for a second. And then the first night it got up, went over to the screen, like pounding on the screen, like it was trying to get out of the TV. And you would hear that like iconic like twang sound that those kind of TVs would make when you hit it. So you're just hearing that sound echoing. And then I would I felt this pressure digging down on my ribs. And then I woke up still feeling that pressure and just like, okay, that was weird. And then the next night, have the same dream, see the figure, starts pounding on the screen. And then this time I start feeling that pressure on my neck. And like I legitimately couldn't breathe, woke up not being able to breathe and just like struggling to find air for the next half an hour or so. Then the next day, this is like, I had a couple situations where the light would just go out, and by go out I mean it would just like explode. Like it would just like pop and the light would legitimately break. It was bad. Like I was like, there is something going on. I don't know what's going on in this house, but whatever's here does not like me. Does not like me in this space. And then the third night I feel that pressure again on the neck in the dream, and like woke up. And I was just like, okay, that's enough. Like I like spent a couple nights after that at a friend's house. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. But like it was crazy.
Wabasha is the oldest city on the entire upper Mississippi River and has been occupied continuously since 1826. U.S. government records and the Second Treaty of Prairie du Chien conclusively established Wabasha to be the oldest town in Minnesota, established in 1830. If you go down the river in Wabasha, they have a figure. This is right outside the National Bald Eagle Center, Chief Wabasha. And you can't tell me some dark shit hasn't gone down in Wabasha, especially being there at a main artery, the Mississippi River. You were experiencing something that didn't fucking want you there. And have you held on to that? Because you've talked about this quite a few times.
It's definitely one of my favorite stories to tell. But like, I've always been a person that always have believed there's like some sort of spiritual connection in the afterlife or whatever. I haven't shaped it yet, but I know there's something more to it than just, we exist, we die, and then it's done. But I've had several experiences even outside of that where I have connected with spirits in places I've been. Like, I just feel like an energetic link. Sometimes I see things. Sometimes it's dream experiences like that one. Like, the first time I saw my mom and actually remembered it was a hallucination on my birthday.
You told me this one too.
How old were you turning?
5. So June 30th, it would have been 1999 on my birthday. Morning, woke up, was like getting up, about to get out of bed. I looked up and I was like, who the, like, took a second and I was like, that's my mom. Like, I had to ask my dad for pictures, and sure enough, it was actually my mom. And I was like, she said hello. Like, that's the kind of like the coolest thing. But yeah, so like weird things like that, I'm all about it to an extent. Hopefully nothing like the other thing anymore. But
you also said when you told me that story, when you saw that, like, the woman in your room, you didn't know what your mom looked like.
Yeah, I didn't know what my mom looked like before. That was the other part of it.
Yeah, but he knew that it was his mom. But then he had to verify with his dad, and the first time he actually seen his mom in photos was that moment, right? Yeah, that was what tripped me up, because like if you had a sense that it was like your mom, but you didn't know what she looked like, and you saw her, and then you actually got photos seeing for the first time, that freaked me out.
What do you think her message was?
That's a question I've never been asked about that. I mean, at that time, I would think it's just kind of a hello, I'm here still, like I'm not gone kind of deal. Like, I still support you and still care for you. But with that comes the whole learning experience of like, how do you take that support in a healthy way? Because of course, as a child, you don't necessarily learn that. And like, that was one thing I had to learn growing up, and looking back on it was like, I made this fictional image of what my mom was and what she meant to me, and like didn't actually see her for the human that she was or the spirit that she is now. So
Have you seen her again?
I have not seen her
In your hallucinations?
Yeah, I haven't seen her, but I have heard her a couple of times after that.
Auditory, which is actually tough to get out of spirit. That is very tough. It's rare, and that's talked about as well, even in the psychedelic realm. Auditory is very tough to get. The Game has this song called "See No Evil" with Tank and Kendrick Lamar, and in his last verse, he says, "And only 5-year-olds see your ghost when you die, no lie." And it has to do with dimethyltryptamine in the brain. So DMT floods your brain when you're born, okay? Yeah. And it starts leveling out after you hit the age of 6, 7. And then it just levels out, and it'll peak a little bit in your dreams, and then it will peak when you die, okay? And it's talked about what gets you, blasts you off, gets you through the wormhole or whatever. But when you can be, because we've all had fears, like for me, I would have to cover up my feet at the end of my bed because I'm scared shitless. And I never had experiences like that where like doors get slammed or anything like that. I did have one time where I had this feeling that my dad was present, and I was 22, 23 years old. I was writing, and I go to the kitchen, I was making a sandwich or something, and I come back to the computer room, and I had to finish something quick, and then I left the kitchen, I left the fridge open. And you know how the fridge door, you can get it to the point of it's locked, so it will not close unless you force it closed? I made sure it was locked. And I get back to the computer room, and I was about to start coming back, and I just hear the fridge slam. So immediately I'm like, oh, fuck. So that gets like my sixth sense rolling, where it's like, oh, fuck, it's going to be a long night because something extra just happened there. Doesn't stop there. I go down to the basement, and I am trying to sleep and I can't sleep. And for some reason, I'm watching a ghost show. I don't know why my dumbass decided to do this, because the seat has already been planted upstairs with the door slamming. And now I'm downstairs watching a ghost show. It doesn't stop there. I fall asleep and I get sleep paralysis. Mind you, I never get sleep paralysis. Why on this night where the door mysteriously slammed, I watch a ghost show and I get sleep paralysis? And it was like this extra being, this entity was like telepathically talking to me like, you're not in control. You think you're in control. We're in control. And I was like, fuck. They control the physical too? Son of a bitch. God damn. I could only imagine having that happen as a child, where it was real. It happened in this dimension to you. To have to sleep in that same room every single night. I know I asked you this after you told me that story the first time. What was it like?
Let's see. So this is, mind you, I'm in middle school at this point. So this is like 12-year-old me, 12, 13. So like it's past that. Oh, like it's the early kid age. Like they're going to have moments like that all the time. So I was kind of like, just like, if this is happening now, like what? But after, for example, after like I spent the night at someone else's house coming back, like I already had trouble sleeping, but after that I was just like, my insomnia just got real bad. Like I just could not sleep. I had a couple more instances while I was awake that were really sketchy. Like playing video games one night, I had the light on, and like, so you know how when you're staring at something, you get that tunnel vision kind of effect, and then your peripherals, it's a little harder to catch when you're focused. But like I saw like this black smoke, like the same shade of that figure in the dream, just like creeping up on the side, like on the wall, and it was like a look over and just it just went gone. I was just like, nope, I'm going on a walk. No, like I was super excited when we moved out of that house.
Yeah, man, energy is weird. Energy is strange. Energy is something that we can't even put words to.
Yep.
You get my drift? I read this meditation book. This was fucking years ago, maybe even a decade ago. It was the first Audible book I ever read. And it was talking about how energy sticks around like dust in a room. So if a traumatic thing happens at a certain ley line where energy is already rampant, or on the planet, or a certain house, because energy went into building that house. So say a person dies during the construction of that building of that house, that energy is sticking around,
Stays there.
like dust. Why do you think exorcisms exist? They got to go get that energy out of that person. So it might have been something following you, or typically I think if something follows you, it wants to protect you. If something sticks around in a house, it's there.
Right.
It's going to affect whatever moves into that house in the third dimension. It's very strange. And that's why I looked up how old Wabasha was. Who'd have known? It's the oldest freaking town in this state.
I knew it was like one of the older ones. I didn't know it was the oldest.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
But like, yeah, spaces carry energy all totally. Like that's like things carry energy too. That's why when you like have a stressful day at work, people recommend that you change clothes when you get home, because you get rid of it. You shed that energy in a sense.
Shower.
Yep. Showering, same thing.
Yep. You're giving yourself a baptism, daily baptism.
But like since that experience and like other experiences similar, I've been interested in learning how you interact with that energy and how you can like what's kind of what I want to say, how you can just exist with it and be with it in a better way and just understand it better. So like I've been paying more attention to like the energy other people give off, and like, oh, okay, this gives this kind of effect, and like, well, I feel weird in this room. I wonder why that is. kind of thing.
Kind of being a malleable vibrational vessel as opposed to a physical being. And in this book I'm talking about, the creation frequency, it talks about that, where if you can just calibrate yourself to, it's all about kind of being a chameleon in life. And when you can do that creatively, where, okay, if I'm not putting all my effort into something, why am I not? Oh, that means my heart isn't into it. So I'm not vibing out with it, which I feel corporations are taking down walls and they're allowing for comfortable creative spaces. If you notice me, I don't like to put a lot of pressure on things, because when pressure and deadlines are put onto things, it really kind of creates this facade of it's work now, it's not fun. We want to have fun. And it's all about tapping into that and creating that kind of environment for yourself, where you start surrounding yourself with those kind of people and you start really vibing out into that wavelength where it's like, let's go have fun. Because when I get to work and have fun, it's no longer work. I get to play all day. It's awesome.
Yeah, I really do agree on that too, with like the experience I had, like taking communication classes, like team bonding communication class. Like the bottom line is, like, if people are happy in the group, like if everyone's well taken care of, like all their needs are met, or they find some sort of connection that pulls them into the group and stuff. That's why I feel like the whole stereotypical, like, 9-to-5 corporate job where they don't really give a crap about you, they kind of throw you away like a pawn, like stuff like that. It's very toxic, and it will definitely like break you down even as a human. What's interesting too is, like, this is, I don't know if it's similar, but before I was like coming here, I was listening to like a YouTube channel, the infographic show. They were talking about prison and how, like, the environment in there that they treat the inmates is very, like, horrifying. It's like inhumane. It's not like super like, oh, they're torturing them. We're not at that point, but like emotionally, mentally, it degrades them. They listed a bunch of things that affect the inmates incarcerated that are way worse than actually getting beat up and all those like stereo things, like dropping the soap in prisons and stuff. Like it's mentally draining, because like you're in there like waiting, you're wondering, like life is moving on outside of you. They normally don't give a crap about the food. They don't care about how people are treated in terms of like in their cells. Like it's just a cesspool of just unhappiness.
Yeah.
And the energy around it is like just inside bricks.
Yeah, I was in a play that was focused around like the prison life too, and so of course we got opportunities to learn from different inmates, and like the show itself was taking stories from actual inmates too. So we had a lot of just like in the moment emotion, in the moment processing, and like it was so interesting because like that very aspect, it was mentally and emotionally really degrading. Like it doesn't support them being anything but the criminal that they came in as. Like it does not support them becoming anything more than that. And so like everything is put on pause and there is no shift unless you somehow find the willpower to do it yourself. And like when I think of incarceration, I was just kind of like, of course it's not getting better. Of course there's more people in prisons because we're not doing anything to actually help them.
So the fact that it's not allowing you to grow, they just keep throwing the same shit at you.
Yeah.
You're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. And
Yeah, they also mentioned in the movie Shawshank Redemption.
Great movie.
Yeah, I heard it was a good movie.
That's a go-to for treatment.
Yeah.
Great
They mentioned the part where the person was like, he was actually a really good person up until he went into prison, which made him a bad person. So like it starts fueling the toxicity passing on to people because it's not getting any better. Like it's just creating more of a problem, which could probably explain why America is probably the top one incarcerated people, because they treat people like shit.
Absolutely. It's breeding recidivism, continued patterns, because we are creatures of habit. So when you put a McDonald's on every corner and you make them uber accessible and you get me going there a few days a week, what do you think is going to happen? That chemistry in my brain is always going to have that pathway, and it's going to strengthen and strengthen to the point my diet's shit. That's the same thing in prison. Man, when you have everybody with a shitty attitude because that's bred, and we're enslaved to our past, we're enslaved to those papers we all hold under our cell or underneath our bed. Like, what's your record, man? Well, how long is your file, bro? It's like a competition of how long your file is, what your felony points are.
Yeah. Another thing that got me about that, there's people who are now, like, when they get out, they're just like, I'm probably going to do the same thing that got me here in the first place.
Better
like
off going back in.
Yeah. Like, they're prepared to go back in. Like, it's not even, oh, I hope I don't go back in. It's like, I'll probably go back in soon. Like, like, I'll probably be back here. I'll see you next time kind of deal. And it's just like, we shouldn't have a system like that where people are preparing to go back.
You're creating drones, and they're, let's be honest, the prison profiteers, they love those,
Right.
You know, because we have private prisons across our country, and there are states like Minnesota, for instance, who refuses to allow them, thankfully, but not every state can say that, where they profit off of heads being inside their prison. That's a dark game, Bob Barker. Get it together, bro. While Loops is getting that camera rebooted, Timmy, I wanted to get a story out of you today too, if you have one.
Coronavirus!
That shall never get old.
Hold on. Let's wait for Loops to give us the thumbs up.
I was going to talk about how Loops was just dancing on my Facebook feed the other day.
All right. Well,
actually, I wasn't going to talk about that, but I did notice that, and it made me realize that I can't dance for shit at all.
Boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka. Okay, so Timmy, you ain't got the moves like Jagger.
I don't got the moves like Jagger whatsoever. You don't either.
I know. When you think of a cliche white dude dancing, that is me. My hips have lied to me since 1988. I just ain't got it figured out, bro.
At least you're confident, though. At least you do it with confidence. That's all that matters.
I'll wait for him because I'm actually asking the question to him.
All right. You got a question for Loops?
Yeah. Was that video the Joji choreo that you did?
Yeah, the one that you learned it.
Hold on. What does that mean?
So
the song.
The song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the Joji song. He learned it because I had a live stream with Be Your Best Minnesota. They had me teach on there.
It was fun.
That was sick.
Thank you.
It's so cool, man. When you I think of this show called The OA. It was on Netflix. And they all got trapped into these cells, okay, by this kidnapper guy. And they had to create these symbiotic moves to be able to transcend out of these boxes. It was trippy. And when I watch you move, I see you tapped into something greater than yourself. It's working through you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And do you feel that it's the flow state? Mm-hmm. Do you feel that after you've perfected a dance and you perform it, that you are outside of your body and something else is working through you?
Yeah, I would say it is some sort of weird transcendence thing, like with dancing, because it's like very feeling based. Mm-hmm. So you can't just like put analytics and logic into like something like that. So yeah, it's like, I would say something like spiritual.
Oh, you're a savant.
What I love about dancing is it's like the purest form of stress relief. Because as you're dancing, the way you're moving, it just shows that you have no stress. You're like you're saying, it's something is moving through your body that's allowing you to do it. But then you have people that can't dance, and you can definitely tell that they're thinking too much, and that's where their movements, and as you can see what he's doing.
I'm gonna track that like in the video is doing this to you.
You see what he's doing right there?
Stop thinking so much.
Yeah. I had this thought too, like yesterday when I was driving, like what makes more things to back up dancing being one of the greatest things is because it is a language that can connect people, just like food. Like it's like a necessity thing where like you don't have to speak the same language as I am. Like if we were like borderline just kind to each other and you can see that then if we share this kind of thing, then you can then connect as people. So people then like there's in the dance community too, sometimes they kind of like shit on like TikTokers and stuff, but someone put it in a very simple way, calling TikTok as like karaoke dancing. Yeah, so it makes it more inclusive, which is nice. Like I would rather have the whole world dancing, even if it's like karaoke dancing, on the side of like the kind of professional dancing that we do. Like I'm okay, and it makes me happy. Like I want the whole world to dance, and you can go to anyone else. If you see people dancing, then you're gonna vibe with that too. Like I went to so I was at a wedding filming for a couple named Alex and Okate, and Okate came from I think. They came from their African family, and their music and their dancing was a vibe. I didn't even have to know them.
We get it popping.
To get it popping, yeah. And it's just like I love dancing because it does that to you. Like it makes you happy on earth, and it's just the expression on top of it. Because I was like, my logic from yesterday was like how my brain is weird. Like it comes from one thought, stems into another thought. It came first at. I was watching this show called Sex Education. It's very good on Netflix. It's like people in the UK, like it's a school. But there's a scene where one of the characters, he is like one of the greatest swimmer in their school that take them into like nationals or whatever the hell. His name's Jackson, and he was losing his passion for swimming because of like family things, and he was going into like a Shakespeare play. Mind you, if you've seen the show, it's freaking weird. It's season 2. That he goes in there and like he's going in this realm of like practicing Shakespearean play, like talking, and he's like asking for help. He's like, what? Like I don't know how to do this, and he's asking help from like one of the tutors, and she's like, it's poetry. Like the way they speak is like about love. So how you express that love is like how you're expressing yourself. And then my thought went into like Shakespearean was like probably precursor to music, like singing, and then singing is like dancing is the byproduct of like singing and music, which like all these things make me think about self-expression and what that even means. So it's very like complicated chain, but like yeah.
I feel like dancing is the visual representation of a beat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you have a person, and it's known, especially in African culture, boom, 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 and native culture, boom, 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 and then you have people around a campfire doing a specific dance to the beat. They are providing us a visual representation of what we're hearing. And when it's on point and it's mathematically there, you can't beat that because something's working through them. So when we talk about energy, it's just a amplified version of energy.
It happens with music though too. I mean, you have a beat, and then when the beat is on point with the words that are being said, on point with the beat, it just makes for a great track.
It's the only way it works.
It's the only way it works, because then you have the people like Blueface who can't rap on beat, and it just sounds awful.
Dude,
I remember
shutdown tone there.
I remember where I was, and that song was popping. I was in Los Angeles last year, and mind you, we were in the same car ride, and I had to point out Billie Eilish to the Juice Pop Boys while she was on the side of a building. Okay, and Billie Eilish I was like, play Billie Eilish, because the Uber driver asked us what we wanted to listen to. After this Billie Eilish song gets done, right?
Oh no.
Blueface comes out, come on, Tatiana, or whatever.
Bust down, Tatiana.
I was like, you go from a girl who is spiritually gifted, she is tapped in, her and her brother, like they create masterpieces, right? They have it. Then you have that. And it was just like the yin and yang to music. And I got these white boys from Minnesota to my left and right. I was sitting in the middle. And they're like, oh, this is that jam. I was like, don't ever talk to me about art again when you want to say this is that shit right here, because he's
Billie
talking.
Eilish, Blueface.
He's talking out of time. How do you talk out of time, Jack? The fuck? So you have that, and it's like this. I'm on this pinnacle. I'm at the zenith, and then here I've lost faith in a matter of 3.5 minutes.
All in this one car.
One car ride. Damn you, Uber. Why do you give me options? Implant me. Take my free will away. Okay, you guys, I love you all so much. This was a phenomenal show. We're at an hour 10. Much love. You guys feel successful?
Feel successful.
Let's go. I'm ready to eat.
Air pound.
Air pound.
Boom. Boom.
Wow.
Love y'all.